Hello and welcome to another video. This video will be about corruption, political discourse, United Nations, and overall political activities abroad from my perspective in Sweden. So I'm not too old, so a lot of stuff that's in the discussions right now that started a long time ago before I was born, and well, it's hard to figure out how to perhaps align yourself to the political discourse and whatever events and or activities that are now directly connected to the government that I am paying my taxes to and living within. And this video will be a little bit jumpy. I have a thin red line that I'm gonna try to follow. And I'm gonna start in South Africa. The year is 1948, and I think that's the year of the beginning of what's called Apartheid. And I haven't read too much into it, because my main point of interest for this video is a little bit further ahead in time. But I think we'll start there. So apartheid is something that's a result of the colonization of Africa and the era 17th century, where mainly British, French, Spain, European countries in general really started to explore the world in a legal and trade manner. But anyway, so 1948, the beginning of apartheid, and I'm just gonna skip right ahead up to 1975. And 1975 is a year of interest for Sweden because it's the year when our country officially became a multicultural country. And the definition of this, I don't have it, but I'm sure there are lots of goals printed down, perhaps some laws printed, etc. So 1975, we're now a multicultural country. And the year after that, 1976, there's a change in the laws that perhaps regulate or control the government employees. I'm not sure how to put it, but in America they talk about collars on their workers. So let's see here. Yeah, so white collar, that's work done, or the people who work in an office or other professional environment. So I would say, the government hired white collar people here in Sweden. The laws regarding responsibility and the punishment that comes for not keeping up with those responsibilities. It's called tjänstemannaansvar i svenska, på svenska. So, I'm not going to go into detail why this is interesting or important, but I think it's an interesting note to take with you with what's to come. So, let's see, during these years, a political figure called Olof Palme is active, and is active within the political part that's called the Social Democrats. And Olof Palme is pretty famous actually around the world because of this time period. He was engaged and involved in a lot of political discussions and conflicts, and perhaps you can see where I'm going with this, since I started with the apartheid. So we are in South Africa, let's say, and well, Olof Palme and Sweden at large, via the political organization, becomes rather active in the subject of apartheid. We see ourselves as, some kind of worldly diplomat and perhaps neutral ground. We're not Russia, we're not America, and so on. But the conflict in South Africa was that the government and the laws and overall was leading to a lot of perhaps racial conflicts, cultural conflict, and this was well, it engaged a lot of countries around the world. So perhaps it's an honor for being the country that sends the representative of Olof Palme. So anyway, Olof Palme and Sweden, in extension, offered support to the anti-apartheid organizations, and worked towards, democratizing the region. So during these years, a lot of money went into the country from Sweden. I'm sure also other equipment was also provided. So anyway, Olof Palme is actually killed here in Sweden after a cinema visit, and this topic is, well, it's still pretty popular today. The murder is not officially solved. The guy that they took or had as the main suspect is called Christer Pettersson, and to describe him shortly, he drank a lot of beer and had a lot of fun with other substances as well. He wasn't very proper. He knew very well how to speak for himself, but he lived quite a roaming life, and no real stable career. So he was the main suspect, and he was until his death, but he was never convicted. And this topic is, quite a magnet for conspiracy theories and overall alternative timelines or explanations. Anyway, at 1992, the economical aid given to South Africa, and by South Africa I mean directly into the anti-apartheid organizations and for working towards the democratization of the region. And the numbers of the money given from I think it's way back to the 60s something up to 92 is about 240 million Swedish crowns. So that's quite an influence that goes into the region. And political influence is a topic as of now, both during the last election in America and during our election here in Sweden. We have seen and read a lot of discussions about interference and overall trying to influence the election results or political state of the country. So let's see. I have actually a document here from the Swedish government. It's from 92-93, and it's I think it's called Proposition that says or proposes that 240 million Swedish crowns should go to democracy, human rights and humanitarian aid. And the aid is directly pointed towards the ANC, which would be the main opponents of apartheid and that current regime. Yeah, so you can read here that the leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, Sach de Beer, says to a newspaper that the Swedish aid to ANC means that rich countries can buy political influence in poorer countries by providing economical or financial support to chosen parts or parties. So what we are today trying to protect us from, we have been a happy practitioner of. Yeah, let's see, that's 92, and step forward 2 years to 1994. That's where the year when Sweden has a vote for the citizens in the country to decide or to give their opinion on joining the EU or not. And it ended at 52.3 was for, 46.8 against, and 0.9 undecided. And from this result, the government signed the papers. 1994 is also the year that Nelson Mandela becomes the leader in South Africa via ANC. And it's also the end of the apartheid period. So, up to this point, the activities in South Africa from Sweden's part has been financial support, Olof Palme, and by 1999 there's a deal made between an organization called NUMSA, and that stands for the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, and SAAB from Sweden, which is the fighter aircraft producer of Sweden. So the deal is that Sweden want to be there, help the country with the democratization process, and overall aid. It's a lot of conflict in the area, so it's not surprising to want to do those acts, perhaps. And the deal between NAMSA and Saab is that the country now needs, defense. So Sweden, my country, want to sell our fighter jets to South Africa. And a deal is made for, I think it's 15 billion Swedish crowns. If I'm correct, it's confusing to translate from billions and millions in the Swedish equivalent, but it's a lot of money. And if they buy these fighter jets, Sweden and Saab and the Swedish Metal Union will help bring up school related to the aircrafts, and also I think there's some other parts involved, but the main point to be remembered, I think, is the school, technical school. So they want to aid the country with the technical knowledge, as well as selling products for a huge amount of money. But this school, the project is cancelled or disposed after suspicion of corruption and bribes. So during this deal and this scandal, perhaps, has a man called Stefan Löfven that's active in the discussion. And Stefan Löfven, well, he's, as of now, the Prime Minister of Sweden, but back then he was employed by the metal union, the metal workers union here in Sweden. And Stefan has had quite a career in that department. It spans for 10 years, from 95 to 2005. So Stefan is directly involved in handling this scandal, and handling this scandal is done by offering the project money for perhaps other projects within South Africa, but not the project originally thought with the collaboration of NUMSA. But after some investigation and discussion, a Swedish company called BAE, it's a warfare or defense company, so they produce equipment for the military section. Anyway, this company, BAE, they pay 3.7 billion Swedish crowns as a fee. And it's concluded during the investigation of the corruption and the bribe or suspicion of bribes that about 1 to 1.9 billion Swedish crowns of hidden payments. So these are thought to be, directly connected to corruption and bribing. So let's sum up the financial aid given to South Africa by Sweden. And from the 60s, I think it is, up to the end of apartheid, about that time, is given 896 million Swedish crowns. And during the process of stabilizing the country after the political conflict, another 1.6 billion Swedish crowns is given to aid the democracy process. After that, another 3.1 billion Swedish crowns is given. And after that, closer to now in time, about 145 million Swedish crowns are given. So it's a lot of money involved, and a lot of money means a lot of stuff happening, a lot of influence, a lot of opportunities for people that don't have money, etc. And let's see, I have some quotes from the period as well. So let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so we have it's a person called Birgitta Dorf. She's a Swedish diplomat that's has been working in Africa for about 20 years of her career. So during an interview, I'm just going to quote it. So, it happened in the question of weapons that people came and asked if we could support. I explained to them that we did not work like that. And why we were important was because we were the middle way, you know, talking about Sweden. We were not the Americans and we were not Russians. So they were very interested in that. The armed struggle, then you can never know if you get money for butter balls, then you have more money for gun balls, is what she said. And then she's asked, maybe we played a role for the armed struggle indirectly? I do not want to say that, but it's always like that, she responds. And I have another small part. It's from a documentary called The Humanitarian Superpower, if you want to look it up. So, let's see, out of context, but Palme was the motor in this. There were quite a lot of money that were smuggled into the country. The interviewee asks Brigitta. Yes, it was. Well, nobody really knows how much it is. It became more, much more, than what we gave to the ANC. This was thus a secret aid. You really didn't know about this in Sweden. Therefore, nobody knew about it in the public debate and such. So, there's a lot of, you know, around this subject. And let's see, where was I going? Let's see, I think I had some other interesting fact. This is from Wikipedia. So it's just a quote. I'll try to translate it from Swedish. Totally, about 1 billion Swedish crown was transferred to the ANC and other organizations. A part of that sum was for juridical help and to defend black persons that was accused of crimes against the apartheid community. In these cases, it led to a lot of people managed to avoid the death punishment, or got their punishment drastically reduced. Brigitta Karlström Dorf was called Palme's secret agent in a documentary shown on Swedish television. Just a short quote. And I think I will be leaving South Africa for now. Let's see, just one small last point. So, you know, Stefan Löfven, the current Prime Minister, and the one that was active in the scandal or the activities down in South Africa, he has also been working within the Olof Palme's International Center here in Sweden. Yeah, just a heads up. So let's move forward in the timeline. So we're now entering the 2000s, and the year 2010, something is done in Sweden. So 94 we had the vote for the EU membership. 2010 the membership was actually incorporated into the foundation law of the country. So the foundation law is the basic law, and trying to find some good comparisons. Perhaps the Americans' amendments, but a more modern version. Anyway, this is the foundation for the juridical system and the laws in Sweden. So it was incorporated there without any vote or so, and it's a lot of discussion about this event or happening, because it's perhaps it happened under not optimal circumstances, or strictly correct circumstances. Stepping forward again, 2013, we're going back to the fighter jets of Sweden. And just a short side story. I have been working at a museum for it's called it's called the Sea Marine. So it's the aircraft, or perhaps air defense or air fighting museum of Sweden. And I was working there for 1 year in a section of the museum. So I have some foundation knowledge about the history of the Swedish fighter jets and the fighter jets globally, and what kind of development they've had. And specifically here in Sweden, the fighter jets that has been produced after the Second World War, they are taken to heart by the Swedish people. We love our fighter jets, we love our Volvo and Saab, etc., and we know the names of the nicknames of the fighter jets. But the current one is called Gripen, and in Brazil, 2013, there are discussions about trades with these planes. So in Brazil at this time, in that part of the world, corruption it has another form, perhaps. I would say perhaps a more primitive form, but it's it's out there and you can spot it. And this deal that's discussed, it totals to about 39.3 billion Swedish crowns, so it's a lot of money. And similar to the deal in South Africa, it is said that Saab supply with education in the region, and also some development and production as a part of the deal. And it's understandable. I don't think any country would buy their defense equipment for such amounts of money without getting to know the process of developing and getting a foot into the organization and everything. Anyway, so there are scandals surrounding this event as well, and I think it's our guy Stefan Löfven again that's yeah. So Stefan Löfven is called to interrogation about JAS affair, and JAS would be the aircraft. Court in Brazil has demanded that the Prime Minister appears as a witness, perhaps I'm not sure, by reason of a large corruption case. Apart from Stefan Löfven, also Saab's executive Marcus Wallenberg is called, and 9 other Swedish people. So once again, Stefan Löfven, the metal union, and Saab is involved in this scandal, perhaps. And yeah, let's leave that for now. And yeah, let's see. I think I'll try to conclude this video. And just gonna talk about 2 more cases and 1 more individual here in Sweden. And it's very recent. So a few years ago we had a scandal where our Department of Transportation within the government was involved in a scandal, and it's regarding data and information about everything regarding transportation in Sweden, and within those that data is also involved some sensitive data, plans and maps. We have individuals that are involved in secret or perhaps sensitive projects. So a lot of data went going, and this is a scandal because a lot of secret people's identities were revealed. I think, if I'm not incorrectly informed, and the person responsible, and now I'm trying to connect with the public liability law that was changed in 76 here. So 2015, the boss Maria Ågren decides to astray from the law that is supposed to protect sensitive information. The security protection law, perhaps. It's hard to translate all these specific names. The the security police here in Sweden is called SÄPO. I think the equivalent would be in America, perhaps FBI or CIA. It's an intelligence bureau that works for the safety of the country and the people in power. So they said they want an immediate stop of this, and they wanted a stop of the outsourcing of work regarding this department. So the work was outsourced, and hence the information was also outsourced in some way. Or it's, you know, it's been it's a breach in some way. So by this time, this person, Maria Ågren, had a salary, a monthly salary of about 112,000 Swedish crowns. And her punishment for this breach was 70,000 Swedish crowns in a fee. And due to having to step down from her position, she also is going to receive about 4.8 million Swedish crowns in payments as you know, a security program for these kinds of positions or roles. So she will still get paid for a few years. And 70,000 Swedish crowns in a fee. I don't know if it's you know, if it's amount proportionally good to the crime, or the, well, she decided to stray from the let's see, I'm losing my words, the laws. So 70,000 Swedish crowns was the fee. And another case here in Sweden is the case of Akilov. It's Akilov is a man from and he's called Rakhmat Akilov. And let's see if we can just get the basic information. I think he's from Uzbekistan, but anyway, he's not from Sweden, and he came here, and he was doomed illegal at some point. It's pretty recent. So he was doomed illegal, and that means I think he had 4 weeks to leave the country. But that did not happen, and this is not a unusual case here in Sweden. We have one minister, I think it's the minister of let's see, sorry about delays. So it would be the internal minister, you know, internal meaning by, you know, for handling stuff within the country Sweden. And this position is within the Department of Justice. It's a pretty high up position, so to say. And he said a couple of years ago that about 80,000 people or so can be deported in the coming years. But we're not very fond of deporting people here in Sweden. We're actually not very fond of you know, protecting our natural border either. So a lot of people have been coming in, and I'm gonna get back to migration and everything in just a sec. I'm just gonna end this Akilov subject. So he's here illegally, and while he's here illegally, he gets radicalized He has, conversations with Muslim extremists, and during this period is also working for a Swedish comedian. And this work, I think it can be said it's done illegally as well, because there are no documentations on it. And the journalists here in Sweden, they are not very fond of, digging into these subjects. So anyway, Akelov is here illegally. He's working for a famous comedian, and he decides to act out, some kind of murder plan. He kills a bunch of people in Stockholm by driving a big truck into a square with people within it. And I think it's officially our first or second terror attack here in Sweden. In recent times, of course, because we have, terrorist attacks have been happening since the dawn of time. It's just the current, definition of a terrorist attack. So first or second here in Sweden officially. And he should have been deported. He should not have been in the country. And he killed, one of the people killed was an 11-year-old girl called Ebba. Ebba's father is today still, very upset, of course. And he's not only upset with the tragic event of having his daughter killed, he's also upset with the handling of the situation and everything. So he's still active today, trying to get his point out there. He gets paid 60,000 Swedish crown as a compensation for his loss of his daughter. So it's a sum that you can compare with perhaps the fee of Maria Ågren, and ask yourself, does it seem fair? Okay, so let's leave Akelov, and I'm gonna just introduce you to another interesting person here. He's called Dan Eliasson, and Dan Eliasson has an well, I'm not going to go into personal details. It's on Wikipedia if you want to read about him. He is a legal practitioner in his early career. He works within the Department of Justice and under the Minister of Justice called Thomas Bodström. He has some scandals to his name also. And both of those people are active within the political party Social Democrats. Dan Eliasson, after that, goes on to work within SÄPO, which is the Security and Protection Police unit here in Sweden, equivalent to something of perhaps MI6 or FBI or CIA. And he starts that work in 2006, and the next year, 2007, he starts working at the migration so hard to translate all these words. The government section responsible for migration questions here in Sweden. And so this starts at 2007, and a lot of migration is going on already, from wars, Balkan and such. He works there from 2007 to 2011, and does some kind of reformation of the department. After that, he goes to another government-controlled department. It's called Försäkringskassan, and this department is responsible for aiding people that are sick, evaluating people that are sick, and so on. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. So he works there for 4 years, 2011 to 2014, and there are scandals during this period at this department, and there's also some kind of reformation done in this process of having Dan Eliasson as the boss. After that, he becomes the police chief of the Swedish police force here in Sweden. So in 2014 he puts on the uniform of a police, and he is active there from 2014 to 2018. So 2014 is just about when the most recent migration crisis or migration movement happened. So he started reform the police during that time, and during the migration crisis, as it is called here in Sweden, the police that responsible for the borders of Sweden, they were saying that we need more resources, better control of the situation, and Dan Eliasson went against this. And in this time, Dan Eliasson's name is starting to get known in the public here in Sweden, and he has to leave the position in the police in 2018. After that, he goes to another department, government section, responsible for protection and preparation of the Swedish society or country. So, and by that I mean protection from political influence, protection from crises, and preparation for crises and everything regarding and involving anything that can be a major change in how society functions. And that's where he is now. And this department, as of lately, have been developing some kind of psychological defense for us Swedes, because apparently a lot of other countries, and more specific Russia, is trying to influence the people around here and the elections that are held around here. So we need some protection from that. Just like in America. Yeah. That's where we are now. And I'm not gonna try to foresight and tell you what the future will bring, but I think that we will see a lot of discussion about the big export companies of Sweden, such as Saab with the military equipment. We have Ericsson with the telecom equipment, and we also have climate debates, agendas, and etc. that we export, and also some gender related stuff that goes into both school and military. But we'll see what the coming years will bring for discussions. I think corruption and bribes, it will never stop, I think. It will always exist in some way. It's just that the way it exists as of now, it's not the way that it existed perhaps a long time ago. So this is a little story of a segment of the political discourse in Sweden and a couple of figures involved, and some economical figures as well. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, or could draw some learnings from it. Thank you.